Today I want to talk about the community of costly discipleship. How exciting is this, that we get to follow Christ and be part of the journey. There was a great theologian named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a German guy, so that's probably why he said what he said. He said, when Christ calls a man, he calls him, or he calls him and he bids him to come and die. It's pretty true. Christ calls us to come and die. And I want to read from a chapter in the Bible that a lot of us probably know. I think we know it, but it's not one we go to all the time. And I want to just read it through, and then I'm going to read it through again. It says, chapter 14 of Luke, verse 25, right through to the end. It's only about 10 verses. It says this, now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he is enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going to war against another king does not sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes up against him with 20,000? Or else while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you do not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. And it goes on to be salt and light like we heard this morning in communion. So, how great is that scripture? You hate your brothers, you hate your mother, you got to hate them to follow Jesus. The interesting thing about this passage here is I want to unpack it a little bit, and I'm hoping that I can get you to view this through different glasses today. The interesting thing is that we love all the parts in the Bible, don't we, that says love our neighbor. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We love those. Especially our favorite ones are the grace ones, aren't they? That God's grace, I can, even if I mess up this week, we heard it again this morning, even if I mess up this week, what does Jesus do? Forgives us. Thank you, Terry. You believe it. What does Jesus do if we do mess up? Have you forgiven? Some of you aren't sure. But so we're talking today about a part where Jesus is doing and giving a message to a bunch of people. And we squirm a lot in our seats when we hear this type of story. We go, well, that's, especially in Western culture, we go, well, we just can't hate people. Jesus doesn't want us to hate. So this is obviously an error in the Bible. And so we treat it that way, and so we put it to the side. And the issue is that Jesus actually wants you to squirm a little bit here. He wants you to think about, because he's talking about following him. And the interesting thing about this is, I can actually think of a politician, for example. You have a politician and we're voting for him. What do they all try to do? They try to sell us how they're going to make our world what? Better. If a politician got up and said this, if you give yourself and you've got to hate everybody, there's a possibility you might even die if you follow me. If you were his speech advisor, what would you tell him? Change the message. I can imagine Peter coming up beside Jesus. The stories of Luke. The interesting thing about Luke chapter 9 through to Luke chapter 19 is Jesus traveling all through the area of Israel, talking to villages and towns and little cities, and he's preaching the good news. And if this is the kind of thing he's saying, I can imagine Peter pulling up beside him and just wrapping his ear in his ear and saying, Jesus, we're trying to get converts here. And you're telling them if they hate everybody, he can't really follow you. And we're just not really too keen on this message. Can't you see that? You can see somebody happening to do that. A politician says, if they acted like Jesus, right now they would get no votes. They wouldn't get votes. People wouldn't want to follow him because you're there to make my life better. I have this dream for this life of happiness and freedom, don't I? Is that what I want? And so you, as a politician, you've got to fulfill it for me. You see, you're viewing Jesus a little bit wrong if when you hear this scripture, you start telling yourself, well, that's not the life I signed up for. I signed up for one of freedom and happiness and peace and joy. There's nowhere in the Bible where Jesus is actually talking that he's actually telling us that that's the life we get. But he is asking us to lay things aside. You see, we have to be very, very careful when we read scriptures like this, because there's an interesting dichotomy that comes into it that we start to filtrate it through the way that we live. You see, I love pizza, but I love Janine. If those two words, love, mean the same thing, she's in a bad place. Because I ate a pizza last night that kept me on the toilet for an hour. But I loved my pizza while I ate it, but I love Janine more. It's the same with the word hate. When I hate something, I hate tripe. But it's not the same meaning as the word hate actually means, to detest and to despise and all those sorts of things. We use it in our culture quite differently. And Jesus is talking to a culture here where the world that was around them was extremely important. And he's used the word hate purposely. He's used it here because he's living in a culture that has said that, you know what, this is where he starts. He goes on and he says something like, if you don't hate your father and your mother. He is living in a culture here where the grandfather was the patriarchal man in the household. And you did what was said, and if you didn't do what was said, guess what happened? You didn't belong to the family, or you were quickly brought into line by the family to do that which was said. So Jesus is now talking to a bunch of people. Remember this, he's gone through 10, he's coming towards the end. This is chapter 14. So he's coming to the end of chapter 19 where he's almost at Jerusalem. And what happens when he gets to Jerusalem? He's going to be crucified. He's trying to sift and sort out who's with me. Who's with me in these times? Are you really going to give up these things? Are you really going to allow who I've been teaching, who I've been talking to, are you going to be the one that's going to say, I give this up? Because you remember this, that these guys, I'll go back a little bit. So you've got the politician speaking out like if he was doing that, but politicians don't do that. They promise us a world that never actually happens. Is that true? It feels like it. Now let's take ourselves, say we're in a group of people climbing a mountain, and we've all got our backpacks on and everything like that, and the mountain guide who knows the area well. We're sitting on top of a mountain, and he looks down the valley, and as he looks down the valley, a huge storm is starting to build into the valley, and he knows it's coming up. And he turns to all of us, and he says this. He goes, you need to take off your stuff, you need to get rid of all your gear, and we're going to go some distance, and I'm going to take you through things that are going to be tough and are going to be hard, but this is the issue, is that some of you may even die. Some of you may not make it, but if you listen to me and follow me, I will get you through the path that you need to do to survive, to actually have life. This is an interesting concept for us in the church because we want to be blessed so much. We want so much to happen. And I'm talking today to a community of committed disciples, committed people who say, I will follow Christ. And this is what he's saying to people. This is what we're saying when we don't get what we want. Listen, Jesus, I voted for you. I put money in your pocket. I loved your campaign. I bought in. And so I prayed. I sought you. I did all this stuff. And this is it. This is the kind of life I get. This is where I build myself into. And Jesus responds with something like this. And he makes it really clear everywhere he goes that the terms of our relationship with him are not to represent and serve my vision for a good life. They're just the opposite. This is a fun Sunday sermon, isn't it? It's just the opposite. He never, ever says this. If you read every time he speaks, all through Luke 9 through to 19, every time he speaks, he's looking, he's sifting, he's sorting. He's going, guys, this is serious. I'm coming to the end of my time here, that I'm actually going to be here, and I'm sifting. I'm looking for those that are saying, I'm with you. I'm with you in this. He's the skilled mountain climber. He's the skilled one. He's going, look, you're going to have to drop some stuff. Lest a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies. You're going to have to lose some stuff. You're going to have to follow me to lose stuff around you, things are going to get hard and you're possibly even going to die. That's what he's saying here. Are you prepared for this? And that's what he keeps talking to us about. You need to lose a whole bunch of gear. You need to travel fast and quick. We need to be able to move wherever we got to go. And if we're weighted down by the things of this world, we're weighted down by things that are important, by our dream, by our world. If he's the skilled mountain guide, then actually Jesus has got every right to tell me what he wants from me. Remember that if I'm lost in a mountain and there's a skilled person there, who am I going to listen to? The skilled person. Now, we all watch movies where somebody doesn't listen to them, and what always happens to them? They die. Or you end up having to send in another rescue team who dies while rescuing them. And so you listen to the skilled person. You listen to the one who goes with it. You see, Jesus is the one that's traveling with me. The guide is traveling with them. He's taking them through the mountainous and treacherous places. He's making sure they don't end up in canyons that are dead ends. He's making sure they don't end up in places that are going to lead them down the wrong path. And that's why he's challenging this thing. He's challenging the family, the father. First he starts with the family and the tribe. He goes, mother, father, brother, sister. If you don't hate your mother, father, brother, sister, your family and your tribe, the ones you belong to, he's going, if you go down the canyon of family, you're going to come to a dead end, because guess what? Eventually, who's going to let you down? I'm sitting in a room full of people that are disappointed in family. It's one way or another. There's a disappointment there, because that's why this is Jesus. I want you to put on different glasses now. You are saying he tells me to hate them and I've got to love them. You're looking at it wrongly. I looked at this wrongly. I was going, I'm reading that scripture and over and over and over. And then it comes to this point. He's going, he's the guide. He's the one going, you know what? Remember the culture that he was standing in when he was preaching. Remember what was important to them. How can I walk? My dad was a fisherman. I'm going to be a fisherman. His dad was a fisherman. His dad was a fisherman. So you're a fisherman, but I want to be a dancer. I want to be a computer expert. I want to be I have a family friend at the moment whose son wants to serve God. He wants to be in the ministry. He is doing everything he can, but his family wants him to be in the family business. And we go, well, then, you've got to listen to your family. No, you've got to follow God. Because we put this whole thing into place. And this is what Jesus is saying right now. He's going, if you hold all these things before me, if you put all of them, the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, if you put the family and your tribe before me, it's a dead-end canyon. You will be let down. You'll be broken. I want to lead you to life. That when you look to me, you will see the life that I bring in the situation when your family lets you down, your brother lets you down, your sister lets you down, your tribe lets you down. Because remember, everything was in a name. Everything was in the name. Everything they did. My daughter will marry him because he will bring wealth to this family. Can you believe what he's doing? If you were his PR guy saying, I want converts, but he's sifting through the crowd. He's going, are you with me? I'm laying all down on the line here soon. Are you with me? Are you with me? He says in verse 26, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and his mother, his wife and children, that's the tribe, brothers and sisters. Yes, even his own life. So he deals with the family stuff and the tribe and the connections, and then he goes back to us. He comes to us and he starts to deal with things. And he said, he deals with us. He's sort of like a society that, you think about it, sometimes it's a society that, focuses on you, the individual. He's dealing with you, you're looking for that self-satisfaction. You're looking for gratification in everything you do. You're looking for your marriage to provide for you the answers that you need. You're looking for your families. You become parents and you go, these people will love me unconditionally. They will show me great grace. They will show me, and I will show them amazing love. We're heading down the same thing because our everything we are is found in what Christ is trying to address here right now. If we put everything in our children, guess what? When they disappoint us, guess what? Because it's all about me. If I put everything into my marriage, my partner, some of you are going to start nudging your partner now because this is the expectation that you don't have anymore. But, this person will make me feel loved. I will no longer feel lonely. I know some lonely people inside marriages. I know some people that are heartbroken inside marriages. And so that person can never, ever live up to it. And Jesus is saying, if you go down, like the skilled mountain climber, he said, if you go down that canyon, it will become a dead end. But if you put me first, he's not telling us we can't love them. See, our culture starts to think, well, that means it's like when he brings out the money, I've got money, I hate you. Jesus isn't saying hate money. He's saying you can't serve two masters. And that's exactly what he's saying here. You cannot serve family, tribe, or yourself. You've got to serve me. He doesn't say don't love them. He said here, he's saying hate them. He's saying because if you put them in any position, we've all seen if you've been in church long enough, you've seen the thing, who's first? God. Who's next? Family. Good one. Who's next? Church. Good one. You put any of them, what's next? My career. What's next? Me. Got to look after self-care. This is a big thing. I'm a HR guy at work. I'm a manager there. And guess what I've got to do? I've got to make sure everybody's self-cared. That's my job, making sure you're all self-caring. It's what we begin to do. We put ourselves and all the pressure on everything. If I just get that job, if I just get that husband or that wife, when we have kids, I will be. If I have a successful church, I will be welcomed in every conference that I go to. People will start to talk to me. I won't be in the Z row. I'll be in the maybe BC row. Because that's where I put, and Jesus says if you put any of that, it may not for you, some of you, it may not be family. It might not be your tribe. It might not even be yourself. It might be something that's other than. That's what he's talking about here. I've never been able to make sense of why things happen the way they do. When I had the church as my number one, when I had my family as number one, when I had my wife as number one, and all those things, and things go wrong, and I go, hang on a minute, I've been serving you, God, I've been doing my stuff, and he's going, no, you can't have them in front of me. Because when you put me in front, I will look after those things. I will do this. And this is what he's trying to teach us. He's trying to show us, because I want to read on here. I want to go on to the parables that he talks. Jesus is really, really weird. You can laugh if you want to. Because he tells this story right now. He's saying, if you don't do this, you can't be my disciple. That's what he's saying. And then he starts telling stories about salt. And they're all sitting around. You read the stories in Luke chapter 9 through to 19, all the things where he starts preaching to people in the villages. And he'll start giving them this heavy message, and he talks about flowers and birds, and right at the end of it. It's a really unique way of approaching people. And I'm going to show you what he's done here. So he says here, count the cost. For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost and whether he has enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it will begin to mock him. Or, what king does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. And he says in verse 34, salt is good, but if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill, but men throw it out. He says here, he who has ears to hear, listen. He's saying, listen. What have we got to listen to? Look at these two stories. He's saying here, the man began to build and was not able to finish. Verse 30, 31. He was not able to finish. He came to a place of going, I can't finish. The king sat down and counted out 10,000, 20,000, I can't do this. So he sends a delegation and asks for help. And says, I can't do this. Looks for terms of surrender. Really interesting thing here. Is we can't do this, folks. Oh, you can try it for a while to be really good. But if you don't count, he's asking us, count the cost of following me. And you're going to find out you can't do it. Have you ever worked in a workplace? You imagine this, there's a workplace full of people that are believers, are disciples, that have said, God, you're number one. And they get together and they pray every day when they get to their workplace, and they pray before everyone comes, and they say, Lord, help us today. We're not able to do this, but with you we can do all things. Help us be disciples that will put you first. And if they go long enough, I've worked in places like this, funnily enough, not always churches, but I've worked in places like this, and people start to smell a sweet aroma, because salt is good. The Bible tells us salt is good. It's funny how in the world we're told to leave salt out all the time now, but salt is actually a good thing. I don't cook with salt, by the way, if you're worried about it. I hate it. It's too much in it already. But he's saying salt is good. Salt is a preserver. You know, when I was married to Janine, it was like the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars shone out of every orifice on her body. And then when I came to find and realize that it was actually me where the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars shine out of, not her. She's not here, so I can say what I want. Oh, don't worry, I know you'll tell her. And it's on camera. And she does watch them. So, hey, doll, I still love you. But, you know, we get this thing where I thought that everything was in my marriage and everything was in my kids. And then when it all starts to crumble, I go, I can't do this. And Jesus is the one that is actually wanting us to see this. He's going, here's the story. Now, I have seen this story in amazing, I'm doing a theological course I started this year, and it has just opened the Bible up to me like I've never, ever, ever seen it before. Because we in our church culture, we read that scripture and we start to tell people that you need to give up all this stuff and love Jesus. And everybody's sitting there going, I don't know how. I know you're right. And so we turn them into Christians and not disciples. We turn them into the crowd sitting in the pews going, we love you, Jesus. Give me the miracles. Give me the power. I will tithe and I will pray sometimes, even if I feel like it, and I'm not coming to a prayer meeting ever. But I will pray. Because we put ourselves into a position of going, if I do all this and it's still not good enough, so I'll do the good things. I'll go and do my works. I'll go and do the good things. And Chanel was 100% right. We don't stop doing the good things. But the problem is when we're doing good things, to know that Jesus accepts me. This was exactly what she was saying today. Exactly everything. Boil it right down. Do the good stuff. Go and love people. Do everything. But don't make it the thing that you have to do to earn his love. Know that you are loved. And when you are loved, you allow his word to flow through you. And you say, God, I relinquish. I cannot let go of these things. My family is important to me, but you are the most important. And I pray, Lord, that you would move in that and that you would help me be a disciple of yours and not be one that tries to keep putting them up and up and up and up, because it'll end up into a tower of Jenga that will eventually fall and crumble. So I pull it from here and put it up. Oh, no, it's the family. And we're juggling. We're constantly kicking foosballs and everything around the place, trying to keep it all off the ground. And Jesus is saying, let it fall. And just follow me. Just follow me. That's a disciple, a committed house of disciples. Ones that look at their mother, their father, their brother, their sister, their tribe, and go, I really appreciate you, but it's him I serve. But the thing is this, folks, is that Jesus is asking us here. He says, this is important. This is serious. And I need to know, are you with me in this? Not everything's going to go your way. Not everything's going to work out the way it is. And if you don't put them as important and put me as important, it'll work. And I'm pretty certain right now that if you're sitting there going, well, I put him first, and I'm going to challenge you and say, I don't believe you. Because first is first. Because I know where I haven't. I know where I haven't put him first. I didn't put him first with the church, and it nearly got taken and ripped away from me. I didn't put him first with my kids. I tried to do everything right. I thought I was doing the right thing, and then there's still get kids that don't want to walk with God. Funny, God has kids that don't want to walk with him. And why do we want to be any different? You see, because this walk, I want you to understand, this walk is costly. It costs us to walk with him. And I can see it on some of your faces now. The Holy Ghost is challenging, is talking, is ministering. If you're sitting here feeling guilty, can I just say what I always say? Stop it. Jesus wants me to come and say, God, and count the cost and go, I can't do this. Just like the king and the builder of the house. If you read those two parables, they actually worked out they couldn't do it. It's not a happy ending. They worked out they actually couldn't defeat the army and they couldn't build the house on their own. Wow. And Jesus is inviting us. Thanks, Graham. You guys can jump up. Jesus is inviting us in. He's inviting us in to go, Jesus, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to give it all up, but I do want to be your disciple. You see, folks, he wants us to come into a place. If all you hear today is I've got to hate this and hate that you've missed the whole thing that Jesus was trying to say. He said, go away and count the cost. Go away and think about this. Because I'm heading into a place right now that I've got to lay everything down. He's going to turn tables in the next few chapters. He's going to turn over the thing and tell them to stop selling stuff in the temple. And he's going to get really cranky and whip people and all this sort of stuff because he's trying to sift people. Are you with me? Are you with me in this? Are you a disciple of the committed? And that's what he's looking for in us today. Are you the king or the man building? And you come down and you come up short and you go, God, I just can't do it. Guess what? You can't. That's a great place to be. You can't. I can't fix my kids. I can't fix the church. I can't fix the people. I can't even fix the crime problem in the community, but God can. And he knows exactly what to do. So, Lord, let me go humbly. Let me walk in a way that's worthy of a disciple that says, God, I've counted the cost and I've come up short. Will you help me? Will you help me, please?